That looks like fun, doesn't it? In all my videos, so many of my videos, I actually slow a lot of the footage down so you can see what's happening, because it happens so fast. What you just saw was in real time. I didn't speed it up. And boy, I'll tell you, it happens quick. My GPS informed me that the high speed of the day was 7.5 miles an hour. I surely can see how that could happen. This, if you don't stick around and listen to the blah 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 at the end of this video, I'm going to show the whole run and then I'll talk about it. This is a serious run. It is not for beginners. It really tapped a lot of my experience as a boatman. I mean, there was several hazards on the river, and first and foremost, the CFS was 275, is way too low for this river. Again, there's no place to get any information on this, and if you get it, it contradicts it somewhere else. I mean, it's just, so anyway, that's why I'm doing this. So I'll go into the nuts and bolts at the end, but first let's go ahead and take a look and see what this run looks like. With the exception of having to pull our boats over the gravel bars, it actually was a pretty good time. And like I said in the beginning, you know, one of the problems is the lack of information or the consistency of it. You know, one place will tell you one thing and another place will tell you something else completely different. Since we had run the section above this on the San Miguel, and it's runnable, the 250 and up, we thought, well, we'll try out this lower run. A friend of mine had done it many, many times, and he said it was a real pretty run, but unfortunately I didn't talk to him about the details. 275 CFS is just way, way too low. So, you know, first and foremost, talk about safety a little bit. Of course, you guys know this, right? You got to have your personal flotation device, and you got to wear a helmet. And the water is extremely cold. It's coming right out of Telluride, basically, out of the mountains there. And it's, you know, if you get splashed, okay, you can get out and warm up if it's a nice day. But if not, you get stuck in that water, you're going to have a lot of trouble really quick. So. And something else that I haven't mentioned that really held true on this run when it comes to safety. When in doubt, scout. You'll hear this, the river rats talk about this all the time. You know, if you're ever unsure, get out of that boat and take a look-see. And boy, that really saved our bacon. The hazards on this little run were many. There was a few log jams and strainers. One in particular was really scary. It was a blind corner. There was a big gravel bar that kind of separated the river, and quite obviously the left-hand side had the most flow. So that would probably be the way that you would favor it. But I could see a shallow channel right in front of us, and I could see where it goes, and I could see that it was open. So we decided to just hop out of the boats and pull our boats a little ways over some you know, shallow water, and got down to the bottom of it and looked back up in the channel, and there's this great big tree and bunch of branches hanging down. It would have been, you know, since I couldn't see into the channel, I couldn't see if there was an eddy right after the turn, or, I mean, it would have been a disaster. So I put that on the map. We'll talk about that in a minute. But that when in doubt, scout really, really is worth its weight in gold. Because of this low flow, you're really forced into a lot of these narrow channels that are close to the banks, and there's just a lot of trees, bushes, brush hanging over, and you really get beat up a little bit. And not to mention at this level, you know, pulling your boat around once in a while. So the specifics on this, just this particular run we did from the Lower Beaver Campground to the Lower Ledges Campground was right at about 17 miles, maybe a little bit longer. It took us 5 hours and 15 minutes to run it. And we only stopped really one time to eat a real quick sandwich, and then got right back on the water. And even with that, the average speed was about 3 miles an hour. The put-in is at 6,700 feet. So now let's take a look, and we'll see exactly where this place is at. In the big map here, you'll see that it's east of Moab and south of Grand Junction, 2.5, 3 hours, and northwest of that little town they call Telluride. What a beautiful spot that is. And the put-in, there's a couple of options on the put-in. One is where we put in, of course, which is real easy and real open, and that's the Lower Beaver Campground. I have heard, but I haven't done it, the next bridge, maybe it's about a mile down the river, the first bridge downstream. Here you can put in there, but I didn't really notice anything when I passed by. I actually was a little bit busy watching the river, but I didn't see an obvious put in. It doesn't mean you can't get in there. It would shorten the trip a little bit. Next is the takeout. Bridges, not the bridges, but the ledges campground is your first option. We chose the Lower Ledges Campground. It was real easy to get in, and it shortened up the trip. Most people, from what I could tell, were taking out at the Green Bridge at a place called Pinion, and that's where a bridge crosses the river. And you can take out there on river left, or so it looked like when I stopped there. To take out at one of the Ledges campgrounds and take out would be definitely shorten it up a little bit, and that's why we did it that way. Now let's get into what the run actually looks like. So I did a map here that shows on the right hand side of the map, I put the hazards, and the hazards are in yellow. And on the left side, I put the rapids that I could remember or grab the GPS coordinates from. And to put it in takeout, I did there in red so that you can see. I only did the option at the bottom of the takeout from the Two Ledges Campground. I didn't add in the bridges there, or the Green Bridge takeout at Pinion. So the hazards were, there were several more that I have listed because you're just moving through everything too quickly to be able to figure out exactly where you were. But the first one, there's a cable across the river. And the cable is low on one side, maybe 4 feet, and very high on the other side. So there will always be room to get through it. But it was something that caught my eye, and I don't know at higher water if on one side it might create a little bit of a problem. It'd be something to keep an eye out for. The next one is this little log jam strainer that's on the right side of the river. At higher water, you can easily go to the left of it. It's on river right, the strainer is. It's one of the problems with this low level. I mean, we were forced either to go through a bad spot or to have to kind of walk the boats around it. So this low level was just not a good idea. The next is a cattle fence, and the cattle fence, as I understand it, when the water gets really low and it's not runnable anymore, they'll lower these fences so the cattle can't walk up and down the river. And once the level is high, they raise it so that the boaters can get through. Even if it is touching the water, these, like it looks like PVC pipes hanging down, you can just kind of move right through them. They're not fixed on the bottom, they move around with the water. So I guess the only concern there is if they didn't raise it when the water went up, you might want to get out and take a look at that and make sure that there's room. Next we hit this log that was across the river. Kind of odd, it seems like it would definitely be pushed downstream at the higher water. And there's a channel to the left of it, no trouble at all. Again, since the water was low, we ended up having to walk our boats down it, but maybe at a little bit higher water, you could just go ahead and scoot around that. It wasn't a strainer or anything, it was just blocking the passage. The next one was the scary one I mentioned earlier. It's a right-hand turn, a gravel bar in the center, and main flow goes to the left. And it was shallow to the right, but I could see down that, and I knew there was no hazard in it. So I opted just to do that and pull the boats through some shallow water. Looking back up the other side, there's a serious strainer there. You do not want to run river left. And then the diversion dam. Now the diversion dam, as you can see, it's too shallow to get the boats over it at all. I mean, there's just not a chance in the world. So at higher water, I had some friends run it and set it, 500-600. You can kind of go down the middle and it's okay. These low head dams are something to be very, very, very cautious of. They have put some boulders at the base of it to break the hydraulics, the recirculating hydraulics. You know, for me, it's just, when I see that water pooling up like that and kind of slowing down, it's like something's stopping it. And as we go back to the, if in doubt, scout, that's when you scout. Whenever, or one of the times when you scout, when you see that water pooling up like that, you might want to take a look and find out what is causing that. Load head dams, man, they're drowning machines. They will kill you. And even though the hydraulics might be busted up in a few places on this, I would still be very cautious. Me, myself, I just take out river left where we did there, right against the edge, and just kind of work the boats through and hop back in and go on down. Below that is where it's so hard to figure out where these things are, but I think this is where they call what is called the Ledges Rapid. And from what I could get from some of the information, it's rated as a class 3. It drops pretty good, but when we were there, just the water, just like the Diversion Dam, was just barely going through the boulders, and I could not see a line to go through it. So we opted out just there on the river right and pulled our boats over the boulders and then went on down. Now about these hazards, you know, I've listed and done the best I could at their locations just so you could be prepared. But know that these things will move and the river will change channel. So this is as of July 2021. But it might give you a hint of what's downstream. If any of these big old trees move around, maybe you'll see them. And again, make sure to put, after you run the river, if you happen to do it, when you come back, put comments in, you know, put some comments on this video. We need to have as much information as we possibly can to be as safe as we possibly can be. So if there's something wrong, I misspoke, or you find something new, put it in here so that we can all check it out. So all in all, that's pretty much everything that I can think of that we saw on the trip. Parts of it were a lot of fun at this low water, and other parts were super, just almost scary. You know, I spent so much time having to watch the river. When we finally got off, it had been such a long day. And when we finally got off, I was just absolutely worn out. Both of us were just like, thank goodness that's over. As much fun as it was just a lot of work. Now, I've been told that since I haven't done it, I'm not going to suggest this to you, but I was told that the sweet spot, good level, is right up around the 600-700 CFS. After seeing the river, I would say that that would probably be pretty good. That would probably work real nice. Well, one thing for sure, the only thing that would keep me from doing it again is there are a lot of hazards on this run. So take it very seriously, be very careful, and when in doubt, scout. So, thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And like I always say, until next time, GoPro, stop recording.